What is going on, everybody? Good morning. Happy Friday to you all. It is an exciting day in the markets, as always. But it's particularly exciting today because why? We have new monthly candles. And who doesn't love a good new monthly candle? The thing that is interesting to me here, getting some really good looking monthly candles on the Qs. Look at this. Bullish engulfing beauty here. We just need to close above that 310.47 level from last month. This is not bearish activity here, guys. This is a strong monthly candle that we're seeing on the SPY. We're lagging a little bit. We need to close over 415.17 in order to really get the ball rolling and get us a nice bullish engulfing candle on the SPY, but still quite good looking action there on the IWM. Again, quite close. Look at this. What are you guys thinking about this? I was not expecting this. I was not expecting to see this kind of performance at the end of the month, I have to admit. Knowing you're wrong, I was wrong. But we did come into some levels we've been eyeballing for some time now. We were watching, originally we were kind of watching, let me leave that where it was. Originally, let me go back to the monthly and keep that there. Want to make sure we're eyeballing that all day. So originally, if you guys have been hanging out with me, you know that we were kind of watching in here. We were looking for SPY to come up into this area. We have those the March 29 anchored VWAP. We'll be breaking above that today. So, you know, that's a big change of trend here. That's a big thing to be keeping our eye on. That March anchored VWAP, March high anchored VWAP. We could pull another one from January 4th high. That's the all-time high there. Crazy to think we were all-time highs in January. And that's at 423, you know. That's starting to feel like a very reasonable level for us to get to. Now, will we get to that, you know, like real soon? I don't know. But we could get there. And it might not take that long. So tell me what you're thinking, guys. I'm really curious to know. How are you feeling this morning? What are you watching? Anything that you'd like me to go over? We hung out with Jake last night. Mr. Jake Wujastic from the TrendSpider team. You guys all know him well, I'm sure. We hung out with him last night. We did a live charting show, and I know some of our regular guests were there. I recognized a few names in the chat. So hopefully we got to everything, all the names that everybody was wanting to see. But if we didn't, hit me up. I'll be happy to take a look at anything for you this morning. Let me get that off your screen there. Y'all, it's Friday morning. Let's act alive. Curious to know what you guys are thinking about over here and how you're seeing the markets right now. We had earnings on CVX, an absolute monster move on CVX. XOM, I believe, also had earnings today. They sure did. Another monster move. These blue lines here on CVX and XOM, these are the monthlies. So we're looking to see kind of if these guys can close up and over, make a bullish engulfing candle here on the monthlies for these guys. Here's your XOM. Here's your CVX. CVX got a ways to go. Probably won't see it today. Man, SPY is just ripping, isn't it? Absolutely ripping here. Up and over last month's open. Oh no, it's not. No. I'm sorry. Spoke too soon. Not up and over last month's open. But up and over our area of potential resistance where we kind of thought this thing might pause. Kind of right around in here. So we'll see. We'll see where we end up today. Kind of anxious to see how this thing closes. Are they just going to rip it into the end of the day? Are they gonna fade it? We don't really know. Francisco says this feels like a soon to end bear market rip your face rally. Very well could be, Francisco. Very well could be. We're gonna know. We'll know after the fact, right? Do you have targets in mind? Where do you think things might pause? I'm very curious to know your thoughts here, buddy. So I'm going to remove this guy for now. I mean, 415 seems like a logical level for sure. Come back up into previous monthly highs. We now know that this anchored VWAP is potentially not acting as resistance anymore, right? Maybe we see a move, something like this, something to the tune of into those previous highs. We take out those highs, we come back into the VWAP down here, and then we make another move higher. It's kind of one of the things that I'm kind of guessing about. How are the Qs looking this morning? Qs looking super duper strong. Super duper strong. Coming into previous monthly highs now. It's that red line right there. And we may catch a little pause here. We'll have to see. Be interesting to see them rip right through it, but I don't know. Everything looks like descending, broadening wedges all over the place. If that's correct, Apple high would be 167.68. Let's check out Apple here. Apple, absolute freaking monster on Apple. So hard to know exactly how you're drawing these guys. But a very clear level of interest is this guy up here, which is kind of in line with what you're saying. 167 to 168, that 166.5, that seems pretty logical. So we've just gained a good VWAP from all-time high. We've regained it. We gained it here. We gained it here. So this wasn't as pivotal of a level for us. But this this high right here that took us down, this will be important for sure. This will be an important spot to get up and over. So I don't know how you're drawing this thing, Francisco. Maybe you're drawing it something like this, perhaps. It's kind of where your head's at. I don't know. Or are you drawing it like this? I believe that the Stratters would say that this is based off of just this, you know, kind of getting into these new highs. This is at risk of exhaustion up here. I believe that's what they would say. Would love to get Sarah on and have her kind of talk through this, but I believe that's what she would say about this. So we might be looking for some sort of pullback here in the not so distant future. Whether it comes today, I really don't know. They might try and close out this month super strong. Would not surprise if they did try to do that. Take a look at cryptos. Crypto's kind of doing what we discussed, or what we've been discussing for past couple of weeks. You know, they broke out of this range, they came back, they tested it, and now they're making a new high. So that's really interesting to see. If you're bullish on cryptos, definitely want to be seeing those new highs being made. We've got some levels above that are of interest to us. We could pull an anchored VWAP maybe from somewhere around in here. And that kind of lines up with that 25.5 or so level. That might be the first level that we need to be watching. Previous lows, we found support here, broke down right through it here, and it might come into play as a potential resistance here. So we'll have to just keep on watching that and see. If we go to ETH, Ethereum in a bit of a quite stronger. You know, we know Ethereum has been leading. We gained this consolidation area. We made a move out of it. We came back and we really front ran it. I mean, this just shows you how strong this move out was. We couldn't even come back to test this. And now we're coming into that same kind of area, kind of like what we were looking at on Bitcoin there. You know, Bitcoin, we're looking at this kind of flat bottom. Initially, anyway, we're kind of looking either at these lows or this flat bottom here. So on the ETH side, ETH is already there. ETH has already made it to all these lows here. So this is a very logical place where Ethereum should kind of take a rest. Now, whether or not it will is yet to be seen. We've got a bit of an inside candle forming here. Not really inside, it's kind of more two up, but kind of an inside candle too. Coming right into the anchored VWAP from the April 2nd highs, but trying to close above. So this is going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on. It has really been the leader amongst the cryptos. Ethereum started moving first. So it's really interesting to see it so strong now. Solana kind of was the leader originally. And now Solana's kind of slowing down a little bit. I got some ideas for Solana here. I mean, it's still strong for sure, but relative to its brethren, it's not quite as strong. Going to the daily here. Got the anchored VWAP from those March, April, I guess beginning April highs, and it's nowhere near it yet. This is at $48. It's trading 43. So really needs another 10-ish% move. James, what's up, man? HKD. I did not. Let's check it out. Whoa. AMTD. What is this? Is this a Chinese IPO? Stuff like this is so difficult to trade because you just never know. They could pull the rug, man, so quickly on this. You went from trading $20 to $260. Nice 1,000% gainer in what, like 7 sessions? Insane. Loading UVXY calls. VIX can go 25 to 30, give some nice gains for people that think the world's going to end. It will pay. Yeah, but I mean, do we think the world's going to end? I don't know. I don't think the world's going to end. You're definitely betting on some cataclysm. I hope the world doesn't end. James, I hope that you were amongst your buddies who were long around $50 on this one. Oh yeah, it's a pretty sweet trade, that's for sure. You guys seen this ENPH? Absolutely massive breakout here. I believe we're damn near all-time highs on this one now. Yep. Gained a new all-time high, looks like today. Pretty insane move. Had this one on my radar. Was really hoping we get this little pullback. This is what I was hoping for. They'd pull it back and then rip it. And they just decided to rip it without me. So sadness, did not get the 30% move or whatever this was that I was kind of looking for. Oh, 44% move. That would have been pretty sweet. What else are you guys watching today? I mean, we can go to UVXY. You just got to be careful with UVXY because they're constantly adding shares to this thing. So they could reverse split at any time. It's a very, very tricky thing to go long, like you're doing, Francisco. Really, I'm pretty sure these things are mostly just meant to be used as day trading vehicles. But you're right. I mean, yeah, it's at all-time lows, but it's kind of always making all-time lows, right? Like most of the time, it's making all-time lows because they're kind of constantly reverse splitting it. And most of the time, market goes up, right? Most of the time. It is risky, for sure. Let's see here, guys. We got some names coming in. Thoughts on Bingo? BNGO. Oh, it's not Bingo. It's Bio Nano. Interesting. That's kind of cool. I mean, you had your highs here. Your July 2020 high that we broke out of. It has retested those almost to the T. That's kind of cool to see. Let's go down to the weekly and see what's going on the weekly. Yeah, I mean, honestly, doesn't this look kind of quite a bit like Bitcoin? You had those previous highs. We gained. Now it's come back into them. Heck of a spot. I mean, that 116 spot, definitely your line in the sand, you know, depending on how long you want to be on this particular name. Gaining the anchored view app from the March 28th highs, kind of like what we're seeing across the market in general. You've got earnings on August 12th, so you got a bit of time. It doesn't look bad. Yeah, you made a higher low here. Kind of consistently making some higher lows. Found some support on that anchored view app. Doesn't look bad, man. I would think that if they keep gaining it, that up here is kind of an area that you're going to have to tangle with. What's this, between like 250, 260? Looks like there's kind of a spot in here too. And really all I'm looking for with this, if you're curious about why I'm picking these spots, just kind of areas where prices fluctuated around a level. You know, you can see price came and made a bottom. It tried to bounce and hold. It fails, and then it gets resistance. So this area in here is that $2.05 area. It's kind of a level that might be of interest that you might have some resistance at. Up and over 205, 250 could probably come pretty easy. I mean, you kind of got levels in through here, you know. You've obviously got a level kind of around in here. You've got a level kind of around in here as well. Just where we held and made a new high and then failed. I would probably be looking for either about 205, 230, 250. Those would be kind of my three spots. So then you would think about like your risk, right? Where are you risking? What are you risking off of? Like, for example, if you bought right now, you know, depending on you generally want like a 3R type of trade. Maybe you put your risk below a previous low, maybe down in here. They could come down and stop hunt just below this low. So you got to be mindful of that. And then just use this to calculate your profit target. All the way up to the top here, you're talking about a 2-for-1 risk-reward ratio. So, you know, kind of a tricky spot to be taking up, like a technically proper long if you really want that 3-to-1. don't necessarily have to go for 3 to 1. It's just a lot of people want that. You could play it off directly off that low, and that gets you almost to that 3 to 1. Oh, nice. You got in at 163. Okay, sweet. Well, that changes the whole thing, doesn't it? Let's see. Yeah, so you're in a nice spot, man, for sure. Because then you can trade off these lows, use these lows as your stop, and then, yeah, now you got a 5.3 to 1 risk reward. Nice trade, Xander. Good job. Let's take a look at Meta here. Meta's disappointing, I have to say. It definitely looks terrible. If you guys have been coming on the stream for a little while, you know kind of where my head was at originally on this thing. You had these lows here, December 2016. We held them in December 2018 when we pulled back, right? And then you take the December 2018 low, and we held them in March of 2020. So then I was kind of looking at it like this. This is kind of like a must-hold area, I think, on Meta. If we break below 153 or so, things can get pretty ugly. And I'm talking like pretty ugly. I mean, 142 would definitely still be in the cards. We'd be just going back and looking at these lows. 120. This is even uglier. It's probably not going there anytime soon. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of where my head would be at on it. Like an initial target, if we break down below that 154-ish level, it does not look good. It does kind of feel like they're going to take it lower. But who knows? I mean, look at all of the... This could just be analysts trying to, you know, protect their ass. But look at all these buy ratings that have come in over the past couple of earnings reports. Oh, yeah, and you know what? We didn't talk about this yet, but James, our big winner on the open of the day after earnings, it did open about like 160 and change, I think. So congratulations to James. Nice call on that. I was stupidly bullish, or I was too bullish. So. That's how that goes. Let's see. Nevin, you got some merch. Nice, man. Stoked to hear it. UPST for Shawshank. Let's see here. UPST, new all-time lows this week. I would run very fast away from this name. Well, all right. So you're not technically at new all-time lows. You tag the all-time low. All right. I mean, if you want to go long this, feel free, but below 2261, I would never touch it. I mean, new all-time lows generally lead to more new all-time lows. So if you're thinking about long here, this thing has to stay above that 22.6 level. So I would use 22.6 as my stop. And if you're bullish on the company, by all means, feel free, stay long. But this looks remarkably bad. This is not the type of thing that you really want to be swinging long without some very, very defined risk parameters. And, you know, an all-time low would be a decent risk parameter. So SPY puts here, I wouldn't do it, man. I would not do it. If we look at the monthly, on the monthly side, let me remove these guys. On the monthly side, we are headed straight for previous month's open. They're trying to, on the Qs, they've already done it. Qs, they've already made bullish engulfing. They're trying to take out the high of last month on the Qs. IWM. Bullish engulfing on IWM. SPY's lagging. I think SPY's going to catch up. I think SPY's at least going 415. I would not short it here, personally. You've got the anchored VWAP from the March highs. We're gaining it right now. I mean, just look at where SPY is in comparison to the Qs. We'll go back to the Qs on the daily. Notice Q's trying to gain this high right here. This is last month's high. This blue line is last month's open. This blue line here is last month's close. So what did we do? We kind of, essentially, we took out a bunch of stops who had their stops below last month's close, and now we're going for shorts up here. We're going to stop around a bunch of shorts. They're going to take out this high. A bunch of shorts are going to get stopped out. I mean, there certainly is a chance that they'll turn this back. But we got a big base down here. We talked about this. Big base down here on the Qs. We gained, we pulled back, we tested it super nice, and now we've gone higher. I would fully expect SPY to do the exact same thing. I would fully expect SPY to come back up, test these highs up here around 417 at the very least. 418, because it's done the same thing too. Beautiful base, slight breakout, pullback, extension. I mean, Apple looks like it's probably going for that 166 level. Right here. If Apple's able to gain this 166 level, I think it's probably going to go try and make a new all-time high. I don't know if it'll get there, but it'll probably try and come up to these guys right here. And I know that this isn't new all-time high. I know that the all-time high is over here. So we kind of failed a new all-time high right here, but we've gone back. This was a retest of these, which suggests that we could push right through it. Then that gets us into questions of like, is Apple tech or is Apple just a consumer staple? Is it almost in line with like Kellogg or something, and clearly Apple is quite stronger than tech. By quite a large margin. Yeah, Francisco, I mean, let me throw, yeah. So your 200 SMA, what are you using? You said you're using EMAs or SMAs? Oh, EMAs. I'll throw that on there too. Yeah, I don't really have a preference on the SMA or the EMA. I kind of feel like more people are using SMAs than EMAs. SMA may be a more self-fulfilling prophecy. Just kind of looking at levels that haven't quite been tested yet. I mean, this sort of was tested, 474, 435. This might be an area of interest. Kind of in here. That would align with the 200 SMA, especially if this thing really starts gaining. I mean, we could get into like a serious FOMO rally here. Because really, like, where did this rally start? I understand that we're coming off of these lows right here, right? And we're up, 11% in 2 weeks. But realistically speaking, I kind of feel like this rally more so started right here. And with that perspective, we're only really up about 3%. So then, you know, gaining another 6% gets us up to the 200 SMA. Yeah, so Francisco, your EMAs put weighting. An EMA, maybe you know this already, but if you don't, an EMA is weighted more towards the front of the price action. So it gives more weighting to current price action. It's going to move faster than your 200 SMA because of that. Your 200 SMA is equal weighting across all 200 data points. So it moves a little bit slower. There isn't, I don't think that there's like a right or a wrong way, you know. I think just use what makes sense to you. But understand the difference between the two, or understanding the difference between the two is definitely not a bad thing. What's up, Robert? Welcome to the stream. Thank you for being here. I saw you in the show last night. Thank you for being there. Yeah, so Chewy, I mean, we're talking about the 200 SMA. It's definitely possible. We could definitely see it. It is not out of the question. I think especially if SPY is able to gain this area of consolidation here, kind of like the Qs did. Qs are already up and over it. So your 200 SMA on the Qs is at 345. It's a big move from here. It's another 10%. So the Qs could catch a little bit of a pause somewhere in here. Somewhere around in these highs. 329, you know, if we're able to gain this one, which we're trying to do. Looks like they failed right at it. And that could be it for today. We'll have to wait and see. It's still early. There's still plenty of time. They don't necessarily have to gain this today. But they definitely went right to it, didn't they? So it's a decent short spot. Oh yeah, XOM for sure. If you were in XOM calls, forget about it. You were celebrating today. XOM right into the monthly open. Have gained the monthly open. It's going to be interesting to see where they close this. So it looks like some profit taking, at least for the immediate right now. Kind of they. Like we always talk about, you know, we're looking for key levels where people might have stops. That's a pretty key level where shorts might have their stops, is at the open of last month's candle. So what did they do? They push price right through it, take out all those stops, and they could reverse it here. Whether or not they will, I don't know. There is a gap. You got a gap at 99.58. Could see that fill sooner than later too. So I don't think that our future, so I have to admit our futures data is, so our futures data is, what's the best way to say it? Leaves something to be desired, I'll say. We are going to be bringing live futures to the platform in August. So in August, this will be much easier to kind of keep an eye on. But our futures data right now does not show us Fridays. And I'm not sure why that is, but it doesn't. So I can't see what's going on right now. We could, let's see. Is there an index that we could use? I mean, USO is the first thing that I kind of think of. WTI, yeah. Let's use USO. I think USO's quite more the proxy. So USO filling the gap, just filled it. Again, another place where we could maybe see a bit of a pause. Doesn't mean that we will. Anchored VWAP off the highs, the March. Oh no, these are June highs. Anchored VWAP off June highs, right there into price action. So this level clearly looks really interesting. 82.37, you know, is clear resistance. We managed to break right over it. We came back to it, tried to bounce, and now we've just kind of been cruising around it. That 82.37 area, $82, that's going to be a big, big level. That would be kind of my line in the sand. I'd want to see kind of price above and hold. Does fill that gap as well. You could see them like come in and wick through this. I don't know what they're going to do, but you could see them come in and wick through and come back and then maybe go. Something like that. Or maybe, you know, wick through it, come back, test the anchored VWAP, make a new high, come back, test that, and then go. I don't really know. But it's kind of a hard place to be long here. You're filling a gap and you're right at an anchored VWAP, a major anchored VWAP from an all-time high. Just kind of a tricky spot. You kind of want to see some of this stuff get gained. You like that it held this anchored VWAP from these December 2021 lows. You know, that's obviously a pivotal low that we're holding. They came back and filled this gap and go here. It could come back into this as well. If they do end up failing it initially, they could come back into these previous highs where we've kind of now broken out of. They haven't really back tested this yet, so that could happen. On this side, though, like on Oxy, we gained this high, this 65 area. And, you know, I don't think there's anything stopping us from going back and trying to test previous all-time highs. You could come into this here, 68. We're probably up and over this anchored VWAP. Yep, well over it, up and over it, and have back tested it. So we're probably going higher on Oxy. Oxy's got earnings. August 2nd, something to keep in mind. Warren Buffett has been buying the crap out of this. XOM. This is your previous monthly open right here. They've wicked through it. We were just talking about that. Could come back. This kind of looks a little bit more like that USO we were just looking at, where you had these previous highs that we've pulled, that we've broken out of. Could see a bit of a back test into these, maybe. Maybe even like in here, something like that. Again, just trying to look for areas where lots of candles are kind of getting stuck, either to above or below, really. That's kind of what I look for. I know that this sort of style of trading is a little bit different. You know, I'm not using a ton of indicators here. But this is kind of what makes sense to me. So I go with it. Yeah, I'm rooting for Oxy too. Everybody talks so bad about Warren Buffett, but the man's a legend and he knows what he's doing. I don't think that, my guess is he's probably not wrong. CVX, super strong day today. Here's your previous monthly open. Came in and just filled this gap right here and is getting rejected at the bottom of it, essentially. Or I'm sorry, at the top of it. You've got another gap up here. Seems like this one would have no trouble making its way back up into these previous highs. Does it need to come back and test old highs here? It could. Certainly could. We'll see what the weekend brings. Maybe the weekend could bring some strange news for energy names. I don't really know. You never know what Russia's going to do. Never know what feather they're going to pull out of their cap Somebody asked something about natural gas. Is there, what would you guys be using on the ETF side for natural gas? I don't really know. I guess we can see, even though we're not going to get a ton of data. All right, so interesting. Natural gas made a new all-time high 3 sessions ago. Same idea, right? Bunch of stops in and around these highs. They come in, they wick through them, and they take them out. So you had a bunch of shorts, probably, who had stops up here against these highs, wick them out, and reverse it. That's interesting to see. Interesting, though, that they did manage to make a new high. Technically, they did manage to make a new high. So I would kind of expect previous lows to hold maybe somewhere in here and kind of see what they did. Right? You have your lows here. They tried to hold them. They failed, and then they were resistance until they weren't. So maybe we look for price to come back into this area and hold if we want to go long natural gas. EPD. So it's a bit of a laggard. Is this natural gas, Robert? It's a bit of a laggard in comparison to natural gas, right? Made a higher low. You know, you got some pivotal lows here. Continuously making higher lows, continuously making higher highs. So you kind of would expect this thing to continue making higher highs. You did fail this high. Midstream pipelines. I don't really know what that means. Color me ignorant. Energy is not something that I really trade. It's just too volatile. Not that so many things are volatile, but or not that so many things aren't volatile. But it's just something that I don't really truly understand. Natural gas transport. Got it. Got it. Interesting. I mean, you know, this whole area is going to be, could be potentially tricky, right? You really need to see this thing up and over like 30, 31 bucks. Bit of a slow mover. Nice dividends, yeah. Nice, Nevin. That's awesome. Good for you. Let's look at DE. Interesting. That's kind of an unexpected move. Interesting. So I would not have expected this to happen. I definitely would have assumed that they'd fail these lows. Once they broke down below them, I definitely would have thought they would have failed them and taken it lower. So that's interesting to see that it's regaining those previous lows. Let's go on the daily here. Yeah, that's a big regain, man. That's cool to see. Really need above this 368. Need to make a new high. Now that we've regained those lows, or we need to pull back and hold those lows. You've got earnings August 19th. Nice. That's awesome, Nevin. Glad to hear that. We are rooting for each other here. I want to see y'all win. Yeah, this is a crazy move. This area might be an area of interest. Potential take profit spot around 350. Betting on this trend, at least this kind of shorter term trend, to maintain itself. You know, just very simply, you've got a high, lower high, lower high, lower high. Maybe we get a lower high into this 200-day moving average here. Somewhere 355 to 360, somewhere thereabouts. You've also got lower lows. Off of your high here, you've got your low, then lower low, lower low, lower low. So definitely something to keep your eye on. Where's our anchored view at from here? Ah, right into it. This could actually be a decent take profit spot too. So just keep this one close, I would say. Chewy. And maybe you use that 50 SMA as your stop. Does this thing really respect the 50 very much? I mean, it respected it on this whole move in 2022. But as it's been going sideways, I mean, it does respect it to a degree. I would look for something maybe a little bit cleaner, like just that anchored VWAP off the high. I mean, look how clean. Respects it perfectly. So I don't know. You have a very, very slight, you know, you respect it nicely here. You respect it nicely here. We closed above it here and immediately sold off. So maybe this is the time where it can kind of take another push. HKD, we were just talking about this. This is Chinese something or another. Chinese IPO. Yeah, I mean, the thing about this, in my experience with names like this that run, you know, 1,000% in a week, this thing could run another 1,000%, or it could, you know, it could crash back to $20. I think what's probably likely is that it will crash back to, you know, back to at least 70 or 80. And that could happen super fast, or it could take months. And it could also, you know, make its way up to $500 like today, right? Like if it gets halted a couple of times, I'm sure it's been halted. This looks like a halt right here. I'm sure it's been halted more than once on the way up. This looks like a halt right here. This was probably a halt. This might have been a halt. So I don't know. I don't trade stuff like this. When I was first getting into trading, I saw several things do this. Yeah. I saw several things do this and try to trade them and never had any luck and said, okay, I'm not going to do that ever again. Just because you just never know. It's kind of like DWAC did this, right? DWAC did this. I mean, you went from $10 to $175 in 2 sessions. And then it crashed back to $50, you know, from 170 to 50. And now it's just taking its sweet time on its way to probably $10 again, eventually at some point. So, I don't know. If you weren't in it early, I think you're playing with fire. It could definitely double again. Like, I mean, it looks like, kind of looks like it wants to. But it could also, you know, you just have to be so fast on the trigger with these, right? Because if it really starts gaining, it'll just gain. It'll be like 207, 220, 240. The bid will just go 320, 340, 360, and then it'll and then it'll halt. And you don't know how long it's going to halt for. You don't know what announcement they're going to make while it's halted. So you don't know what direction it's going to halt in, or it's going to open back up in. So if you play it super, super small, be ready to lose. And, maybe you get a move up to 300. Maybe you get a move up to 500. It's possible. But it's also possible and likely that it's going to find its way back to $80 and then back to, $30 and then back to, like, why is it doing this? Do you guys know? Yeah, see, I mean, the bid, you just went 207 to 215 in a second. Let's look at AMD here. Remind me to take another look at that here in just a little bit. AMD. Let's look at the monthly first and see how we're looking in comparison. Remove everything here. All right, so on the monthly side, kind of lagging the Qs, right? Kind of lagging the Qs. We're not anywhere near, really. I mean, we're $10 away. We're about 10% away from taking out previous monthly open. Whereas on the Qs, we already did it. So AMD's lagging the Qs. Kind of interesting to see. You've got earnings. This is probably why you've got earnings on the 1st. Let's go to the daily here. We've filled the gap today, almost. Logical profit taking spot. Not saying that it doesn't go higher. It definitely could. I'd even venture to say that it will. But with earnings this close, with it taking out the gap, I think it's a bit of a gamble. You got earnings on Tuesday, looks like. That being said, if you are able to gain that gap, 102 is probably in the cards. Does it come Monday? I don't know. I'd venture to guess that it won't happen until we get an earnings report from them. And I don't know what expectation should be there. But I mean, the trend is obviously quite clear. Lower highs across the board. Lower lows across the board. So your expectation would be, if we get back into these previous highs, that we're going to fail somewhere around them. Could be down here at 100. Psychological 100 level is, obviously something to keep in mind. On the monthly side, I kind of had my eye on this area, $59. We did make new lows. Against all of these guys, we made new lows. Just not necessarily bullish. This is a big untested level here. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what they say about their earnings. On SHOP. Oops. Y'all, I hope you're having a nice Friday so far. SHOP kind of holding where it really needs to. This is your big low that took us all the way up. We've wicked through it a little bit, but we did hold the low itself. So that's kind of interesting. Let's do this. Just going to throw some monthly. So blue lines are your monthly levels. These two guys that we're trading within. We had earnings on SHOP, what, this week? Interesting. Earnings couldn't get it out of this range. I wouldn't touch it. I mean, personally, I wouldn't touch it. You're just trading in this range. I think the only thing you can really do here until it makes a decisive move out of the range is you could trade the spread. I mean, even if you're trading the range 31 to 38 bucks, you know, you're closer, I think, to a short opportunity than to a long opportunity. But I don't know, earnings really didn't do a whole heck of a lot for it. So they must not have been that good. Looks like they lost -3 cents. Yeah, I wouldn't touch this until you either break out of this range, come back and test it, or break out to the downside, come back and test it, and then you've got a play. And I think we've talked about this before, but you know, break out, come back and test, and then maybe we look for opportunities to go long on that retest, or the opposite of that. Right? Break the bottom of the range, come back and retest, and then trade. Sell short on that retest. Yeah, and I mean, you could do that too, right? Like you could, there's probably a trade there on that $30. If we hit 30 bucks, you're essentially taking out all the lows, and that would be a logical spot. You've probably got a lot of people who are long, who are just positioned their or they've got their stop set below these lows. So it would make sense for price to, if it's going to go lower, it would make sense for it to take out these lows and then make another move back, you know? Just get all of these people who have their stops down here, take out all of those stops and then reverse it on them just to trap more people. And that's where you would be looking for your short op. So on the reversal, after they take out these stops, when they bring it back, wherever, you know, who knows, they could bring it down to 28, 26, 24, whatever. But then when they come back in, then we look for another short opportunity. I just breakouts, breakdowns. I try not to buy them because you can just get trapped so quickly. Doesn't mean I don't buy them. I'm definitely guilty of buying my fair share of breakups or breakouts and breakdowns. So I don't know if that's what you're thinking, Chewy. That's kind of where my head's at. I mean, technically, at least in the short term here, you do have a higher high made against this one, and against this one, and against this one. You actually closed above this. What's up, Tampa? Never seen you here before. How are you doing today? Hope you're doing well. Thanks for being here. What brings you here? You did make two higher lows technically. But I don't know. It could be pausing here. They filled this gap. You probably had a bunch of shorts that had stops kind of around in here. You know, take all of those guys out. Guys and gals. SPY down 0.5%. Yeah, but that's not much. I could see them coming back into 400 though. Yeah, kind of in here. Kind of where we broke out from. Doesn't mean we can't make our way up to 415, 418 before then. Certainly could. But this is a big fundamental change in trend from March. You've got your average buyer now from March is in the money on a SPY. First time in months. So it's something to consider. You're good homies with Rick. Who's Rick? Do I know Rick? Yeah, so QQQ doing like what we talked about. You know, you had a bunch of people who have been off sides on this trade, who had their stops probably right in there, those previous highs. They're going for those stops. IGV. What's IGV? Tech software. Huh. It does. It does indeed. Yeah, and I mean, if you want to compare this to the Qs, which would seem a logical comparison, your 300 level right here, which is where Qs just hit, seems like that's probably going to come. So this is kind of interesting. This is probably what the Qs are doing too. But the first thing that I notice here is this. Kind of had this level. There's resistance. We came back. We tested it a bunch of times on the upside. You can even pull it down a little bit somewhere in here. We haven't really come back and tested it this way. If we made a move all the way back to 386 on this, you'd still be in a downtrend. Technically, you know, like you'd still be making a lower high. Could really come back. This kind of seems like an interesting spot too, kind of in here. Those previous lows. It's a huge range. Years of range, really. Tampa, I'm not sure if I know who Rick is. But I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're good homies with him. Going back to the Qs. Let's pop in. Again, this 310 level, this is our last month's monthly open. This is the level that we need to close above in order to get a bullish engulfing close. Let me hook you up, guys, with something real quick. While we're here, we have not talked about this yet. Usually I'd be faster to the trigger here. But let me give you guys this. Do we have anybody who is not currently a TrendSpider user hanging out on stream right now? If we do, I would love to offer you guys a discount on the platform if you're interested in it. There you go. 25% discount on all of the plans. Andrew, what's happening, buddy? The moving average that is on my chart right now is a 200 SMA, and it's only on there because we were kind of talking about where it was in relation to the indices here. Obviously, not important today, but you know, could eventually become important. It is definitely a level of interest. Yeah, Nevin, hook your cousin up with that discount. Send them that link. That link is good for 5 days. Yeah, tell them to sign up. We've got free 7-day trials. If they need a little bit more time, they just have to request it. We can usually do about 14 days max on the trial time, and the trials are free. So it gives them 2 weeks to play around on the platform, get comfortable with it. You know, they're welcome, of course, to come and hang out on these streams, ask any questions that they want to ask. We'll use you as our ambassador. Andrew, sure. Of course it's possible. Anything's possible. Could we come back into that? Andrew's asking, can we come back into the 200 SMA? 100% chance we could. We could. I'm not saying that we will, but yeah, of course we could. If we do, I mean, when we do eventually, we will eventually. Now, will it happen in the next couple of weeks? Will it happen in the next couple of months? Will it happen in a year? I don't know. But when we do, you would definitely anticipate that it's going to be a key spot just because there's so many eyes on it. You know, people are always watching the 200. Oh, bummer. I hope he gets to feeling better soon. This would be a good time. Well, it depends on how he's feeling, you know. He may be feeling like crap and not want to be doing anything. But if he's feeling good enough to start thinking about TA, yeah, it'd be a great time. Yeah, it looks like cryptos are kind of selling a little bit here. Yeah, Andrew, I mean, the thing about, for me personally, the way that I kind of look at everything indicator-wise is I want to see indicators lining up with key levels of price action, and I also want to see indicators lining up with other indicators. I'm going to be a lot more interested in a level if a key indicator, or if there are multiple key indicators kind of in the same area. Let me see if I can kind of find something that might look something like that. So here's your 100 SMA on the SPY. Last week, the 50 SMA. The 50 SMA has been kind of an important one lately. Now it looks like it's getting rejected at the 100. So you can see the 100 is coinciding with your anchored VWAP from March, is coinciding with this area of distribution right here. You know, all of these things kind of coming together in one general spot, to me, paints a bit nicer of a picture than just taking a trade because of one moving average. So that's kind of what I'm always going to be looking for. I have a key area of price action. I have a key anchored VWAP. I have a key moving average, and price is getting up into all of that stuff. And since it is, you know, we expect price to have a reaction there. And when I say reaction, because I don't want to say price, I don't want to say we expect price to get rejected or we expect price to find support. We just expect a reaction. We expect price to maybe react to the fact that there are lots of things going on here. So let's look at that monthly 10 SMA, Chewy. Monthly 10 SMA gets you to 434. Why the monthly 10 SMA? Is there any sort of particular reason? Oh, because it coincides with the 200 SMA. So the thing that I see, Chewy, that gives a little bit of weight to your idea, are these, this open and this close here, and then this failure below. Let's see where the anchored VWAP from the high is. Anchored VWAP from the high is at 430. 431 right now. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely something. We're starting to get a lot of things going on our chart. This is where your analysis paralysis can come into play. You got too many things going on, things start getting a little tricky. Jacktastic. How are you doing, man? Hope you're well. Interesting that biotech, which was strong, is not following the market's big rally this week. Let's talk about why that's the case. Because there's reasons. I think that there are probably technical reasons, and then there are also kind of more like, I guess, like logic-based reasons. The technical reasons, this is your technical reason. You had these lows that ended up failing. We've come into them, and now they're acting as resistance, right? So this area was a key area of support for quite a few months, January through looks like April. We failed below it, and now we're coming back into it, and it's acting as a key level of resistance, right? Old support becomes new resistance. That's your technical reason. We did manage to make some lows, some new lows against the COVID low. You can see them right here, right here. Now, are these lows just stops being taken out? People had stops below this COVID low. So they came in, market makers came in and took those stops out. That's definitely what they did. But they also did technically make new lows. New lows is not great. New lows might give you the expectation that this would fail up here. Right? Just a continuation of the trend, which is clearly down. You know, lower high, 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 potentially. Now, if they can come back up and get above this area, that's a key level, then maybe we can start talking about a move up and over these highs here. That would make, if we were able to do that, then this anchored VWAP from your high, which has acted as resistance very nicely, might come into play again. You could also do this and anchor a secondary one. Pretty clean right here. Front ran it here. They could come back into it. So that's kind of my first thinking, right? Your technical reason is your main reason why it's pausing here. You had a really important area that was support over the past couple of months. We failed below it. We went lower. And now we've come back into it, and now it's acting as resistance. The other reason, though, why I think XBI isn't following is because money has moved, you know? Money that was in XBI saw this resistance, sold in July, and let's look at Q's July 4th. What did we do? Kind of bottomed. Money that was long XBI, smart money, was long XBI in June, sold at the beginning of July, and moved said money over here. Kind of around the time that the Qs were bottoming. This is rotation, in essence. Can't have everything moving all together at once. You know, it's going to rotate. And that's what I would say this is. This is just rotation. Why XBI was so strong, I don't really know. It could have just been because it was oversold. Which it was. I mean, it made new lows. Right? Made new lows. You would say that this was at risk of exhaustion because we made new lows. We took out a bunch of stops. So now you got everybody who was long through this downtrend. Now they're all out. So now there's no more sellers. And so what is the logical thing that's going to happen? Price is going to go higher. At least that's how I would make sense of it. I don't know. What do you think, Jack? And honestly, everybody who's watching, what do you guys think? Does that seem right to y'all? Because I'm just one guy with one opinion. It doesn't mean my opinion's right. Henry Smith, Trading Psychology. I think I just gave a very broad brush explanation of how I would think about trading psychology. Psychologically, like this is probably one of the hardest things to do, but in my experience, what I've found to be, the truth about trading is like sometimes the hardest times to buy, when it's the scariest to buy, those are when you probably should be buying. Like this. You're making a new low against a pivotal low. I don't know what the sentiment was like, but I guarantee you the sentiment here was terrible. Look at the volume. This is a capitulation candle. So whatever the sentiment was in May 9th, the week of May 9th on XBI, I guarantee you in the news, it was probably awful. I guarantee it was awful. There were all kinds of articles talking about failures in biotech, just like whatever. And we make this new low. We take out all of the stops. And this is probably the scariest time to buy, when it feels like the worst time. And what do we do from here? We made a move from 62 to 83. You made a 25% move higher. Honestly, the monster buy is the retest, right? You make that low. You come back and you retest it. This is really, I know hindsight's 20/20, of course. Like in the moment, this is really hard to do, but this is your chance right here. They gave you multiple chances too. They gave you like 3 days worth of lows where they did not take out this previous one. Right? They held it. So the fact that they held it suggested, oh, okay, cool. We can go higher. And then it's just a matter of like, where's it proof that they held it? I think, me personally, I think the trade is kind of making a move above. You get a little bounce here, and then we finally trade above it. That's kind of where my trade would be. And then, as you're gaining, you kind of want to be looking for lows being put in. So like, you've got these lows here. We make an extension, so then you could move your stop. Like if you bought right here, your initial stop is going to be right here off these lows, right? So you're in at 66 and you're out at 62 or so. Once you see this extension, then you can kind of move your stop up to here. Oops, so now your stop is actually in the money. You let price do its thing and chill. And then all of a sudden it extends again, makes another new high. So then you can move your stop up here. In theory, your stop would be here now if you were long in this trade, right? Because you've made a new high here. And this could get stopped out. But 66 to 78, that's a beauty trade. That's how, and I'm not saying this is how I always do it, because I promise you, I'm human. Like this is a robot and this is hindsight. But this is like the proper way. If you can just sit on your hands, let price action do its thing, this is the proper way. And you'd be up 17% right now, safely. And if this continues to gain, great. Then you would just, it makes a new high, and then you kind of move your stop up again to the previous low. But if you get stopped out and you make 17%, that's great. So that's kind of how I think about things. Does that help you at all, Henry? Again, I want to like stress the fact that just because I think about things that way, it doesn't mean that I'm always able to do that live, like in real time. That is not easy to do. It's hard to do. But we got a 90 target on XBI and then 43 for Francisco here. Yeah, man. I mean, let's look at the weekly here. 43. So you're looking for these lows. Francisco, I think that you and I might have some similarities in how we look at price action. Because that would make some sense to me too. James, you're saying you're going to just go all bot so that you can be more robotic about it? So you can stop putting your emotions into your trading system? Let's pop back over to SPY and see what's going on there. Tweezer bottom on the 15-minute. I don't know if I see that. Pretty low volume, a little sell-off though on SPY. Where's our started day? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we're trading below anchored VWAP for the day, or trading below VWAP for the day. That's not great. You definitely wanted to see that hold. Let me turn this off real quick. Let me go to the monthly on Netflix. Yeah, monthly on Netflix is pretty tricky. Because I would have wanted to really see them hold in here. And they didn't. It is interesting to see them gain it, though. I'm just kind of looking real quick, y'all. Another level of interest might be in here. What are they doing? So they came right into these lows. They're getting rejected at those. 231.40. I mean, this is as clean as you can get. Another level that might come into play is this 256. If we go off the highs, yeah. So this could take a little time, but it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. On this side, you've got this 328 to contend with. You got 477. I mean, hard to say, really. Let me just check something real quick. Yeah, I kind of think that this would be your next big one. Kind of somewhere in there. 256. See if it aligns with anything. Let's go to like a daily here. Where's our 200 at? So your 200's at 336. I mean, you have a huge gap down. Yeah, I don't know. Tricky one, Netflix. Does kind of align with your gap down, though. And, you know, depending on what happens when it gets to that gap, it could very easily get rejected at the bottom of the gap there. Just because it comes up into a gap does not mean that it's going to fill. That could take a really long time to happen. So, I don't know. I would stay away from it, but, you know, doesn't mean anybody else should. James. James, you wanted to go over XLE. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, so actually, let's talk about this real quick on Netflix. Rolling out ads. That is possible. I saw somebody speculate recently, like, because there's so many people who mooch their Netflix accounts off other people. I am one of those people. I use my brother's Netflix account. And somebody was speculating on, like, what would happen if... ooh, yeah, the indices are selling off. What would happen if Netflix, just for all of the mooched accounts, if they just started hitting those accounts with ads every, like, 3 minutes during a show? If they did that to me, I will say I would buy Netflix. So, you know, what is... I hate ads. We have a subscription to Hulu, and it's got ads, and I don't even use it because it's so frustrating. It's like, why would I want ads? So, yeah, I mean... So that's interesting. So, all right. So they signed a deal with Microsoft to roll out an ad-based sub, which means that the sub's probably going to be cheap or free. Who's going to buy that, though? I think that they should, if they're going to do that, they should target all of us who mooch off our friends and our family. And I say that as somebody who really doesn't want that to happen. But, like... You know, if I own the business, that's probably what I would do. It doesn't have to be free. The ad-based sub does not have to be free. It just has to be cheaper, quite cheaper than the non-ad-based sub. I think on Hulu, like a ad-based sub is like $10 a month. So a non-ad-based sub is maybe double that. I don't know. Let's talk about XLE. We can come back to Netflix. Yeah, we did talk about it a little bit, James. So let me just remove everything here. So XLE, I mean, compared to some of the big energy names, a name like Chevron or XOM or something like that, CVX. Let me see, CVX. I mean, CVX looks a lot better. XOM maybe one of the stronger ones out of the bunch. OXY a little bit weaker. So XLE. It's kind of a tricky chart, man. I guess what we kind of have here, though, You have these old highs. I'm looking at the monthly. You have these old highs. We managed to get above them and then immediately failed it. So in kind of the style of trading that I'm interested in, we might call this a failure to gain. Over a long term, we might call this a failure to gain. So we're coming back in to that area and potentially getting rejected. Doesn't mean that we absolutely are. You could also say that we're putting in lower highs potentially against these guys. So, for example, you kind of have it here too. You have these highs kind of through in here, and then you have this situation right here. Right? Like if this is these are your highs, you have this kind of failure to gain, and then we break down. So it could be what we're seeing right here, similar sort of thing. I don't really know. I mean, my gut instinct is that XLE goes higher, but I don't really know. I think that whatever plays out on the world stage is kind of going to dictate what's up with energy. And my guess would be that Putin's got more tricks up his sleeve to cause trouble. On the daily side, we've made a new high. So that's good to see. I mean, I think that this is more of like a megaphone pattern. I think that this is maybe an exhaustion risk sort of scenario. It may not be. I don't really know for sure. Kind of got some lower lows here. Maybe this is a higher low off of this. What is this? This is your 200 SMA on the daily. So we broke down below it. We gained it. We held it. You're up and over the anchored VWAP from the all-time high. Or not the... I don't know if this is all-time highs. This may not be all-time highs. It's not. I mean, this is suspect. Look at that. I mean, is that a giant like head and shoulders? Essentially, like, you know, you had a high, you made a new high, you failed, you come back and you test where you broke out, and now you're failing below it. I don't know. This is also, well, I mean, it's a huge range, but I guess I won't call it a range. I don't know. This one's tricky. This one's tricky for sure. I think there's a lot at play outside of just TA here. I think one move in a new direction from the world, you know, one move towards, you know, more conflict or whatever could change the perspective here quite a bit. And so I think we have to keep that in mind. Your swing on AMD just stopped out, Robert. Hopefully stopped out in profit. On that gap fill. Back to Netflix for Mr. Francisco here. You're saying the 200 EMA. Get that gap fill. Yeah, I mean, sure, it's possible. It's possible, but, you know, who knows? Like, it could take a long time for it to get there, is all I'm saying. It could get there in, you know, With the right news, with the right catalyst, it could get there in days, but also it could take years. So I wouldn't be necessarily betting on that, but you know, if you like Netflix, if you're bullish Netflix, just make sure you know where you're kind of getting out of the trade. I mean, I would definitely not want to be in Netflix long below these guys. But also, you know, you could eventually see them come back into those lows, take them out, and then turn it back. You know, it's possible. Just don't really know. Hard to say. So hard to say. Here you're at the top of the range of this breakdown, though. Around 245, 250. I would anticipate a bit of profit taking. This is one that I was watching with like a similar, it's a totally different thing, but like a similar kind of idea. And here's, what did you get? Like, this is interesting, right? Psychologically speaking, this is interesting. You break down on bad earnings, gap down, try to gain, fail. And now we've gained. We've made a new high. Coming into the gap, you probably have a lot of people expecting the gap's going to fill 34, 33. And what did they do? They made a new high, exhaustion risk. They turn it back. They come down into the lows. Take out all the lows, all the stops, and now they've turned it back again, and they're filling this gap here. Just tricky. So tricky. But that's the point, right? They're trying to take your money away from you. Data report this morning. What's the data report? Oh, price consumer. What's PCE? Price consumer something or another is higher than expected. Core PCE inflation up 0.6% after several straight months of only 0.3%. Personal consumption expenditure is the preferred gauge for inflation by the Federal Reserve, though they target price stability via CPI. The year-over-year percentage change in PCE index increased once again during the month of June, reaching the highest level since January 1982. Core PCE price index is defined as personal consumption expenditures, prices excluding food and energy prices. The core PCE price index measures the prices paid by consumers for goods and services without the volatility caused by movements in food and energy prices to reveal underlying inflation trends. So we're paying more, is what that's saying. Well, it didn't affect their decision this month, did it? At the very least, if it did, it didn't cause them to be more extreme than some people thought they were going to be. Maya. I'm looking on Twitter here. Seeing if there's any requests. MAIA. Never heard of MAIA. Maya Bio. Oh, yeah. What is this? Well, tough to chart something like this that only has 2 days worth of price action. So I would just use an anchored VWAP here. Bullish above, bearish below. I mean, not bad price action, really. You've gained. I would be looking for a back test into that anchored VWAP around 460. Trade off of that. Can't provide you much information there. It's a little bit of a boring one, only because there's not much price action. Anybody see this STNG? Been having my eye on this for weeks. My buddy David Yoakum, who may be here, maybe is not here, I don't know. He's been the big bull on it. And I've been telling him to take a short on it if it got to 42. And what did I do? I did not take my own advice. And what did I not do? I did not make any money on this trade idea. The reason why I was interested in it, though, is exactly what we've been talking about all day. We come up into those old highs. Right here. We take out a bunch of stops. And we turn it lower. So perfect. So like this is where I think a lot of people, we were talking trading psychology. This is where a lot of people I think were trying to get long. They saw, oh man, we're making new highs. Got to go long. Nope. Good spot to take a short. Guys, we're going to be here for about 20 more minutes. Anything anybody wants me to go over the next 20 minutes? It's so hard, Robert. That's the whole thing. Is it's the hardest time. Like usually when it feels the hardest to get into a position is the best time to get into a position. VIX is tough. I have to be honest. This is a very difficult thing for me. I'm not really sure. You know, kind of a pretty obvious place to be looking for VIX to catch a bid would be about where it's at right now. Somewhere in this area. Around 20, I guess not where it's at right now. I guess about a buck lower. $1 to $2 lower. Kind of where I'd be looking for it. I mean, it doesn't look super bullish to me, at least on this time frame. Making new lows, making lower highs. Let me check one thing real quick here. Yeah, I don't know. This one's so tricky. It's just not nearly as clean as, you know, it's just the price action is just so hard to really read on VIX. Since my general expectation is that we're going higher on the indices, just generally speaking, I think we've got more room to go. I just have a weird gut feeling that maybe they're going to, and maybe they'll pull it back a little bit, you know, like SPY could definitely pull back to 400. Like that wouldn't be a shocker. But I think ultimately, I think we might be going higher before we make new lows against the June lows. If we're going to do that, I'm not saying we're going to do that. So I think if markets are going higher, then VIX is probably going lower. I think over 23, kind of over these lows, is what I would need to kind of see. Personally, Francisco, that's where my head would be at on it. That doesn't mean I'm right. Thoughts on BMBL? Steven, sorry for the delay, sir. Just seeing this now. It's a dating app, right? I mean, you can kind of, as far as price action is concerned, we can throw up some indicators too. But as far as price action is concerned, I mean, it's about as perfect as you can get. It's like a yin yang, right? Previous lows, fail below them, and now we're coming back in to test them. Now we tested them here, sort of. We're just coming back in to test them here. This is a clear opportunity for an anchored VWAP into from the IPO. There's a big area to fill here. Let's check and see something. I'm going to throw up volume by price real quick and kind of see where we're at on that. From the same level. Yeah, so a big kind of area where there is not that much volume. Here up into this next, actually, into the VWAP. 43. 43 could be a level for sure. That's kind of in line with these lows. You've got another level here around 47.75. I think your VWAP is going to be important. Your VWAP from the IPO date. That's at 43.20 or so. That could be important. And then this 48 area could be important too. If we add some indicators, let's just do like a 200 SMA real quick. And let me go to the daily. So we're up and over the 200. Good to see. Oh, that 48 level aligns with the gap fill too. 48 could be the ultimate level, but the near term, I think we're kind of at a place of where there could be some trouble. You're going to want to see them gain those previous lows. I would be willing to bet some profit taking here. Just because it's coming up to a gap does not mean that gap is going to fill. Even if it gets into the gap does not mean that gap is ultimately going to fill. I don't really know too much about the business model here on Bumble. I mean, I know that it's a dating app. I would kind of maybe look for a long around the 35. This kind of reminds me of China names a little bit. All-time lows, gap and go. They filled the gap almost to the penny. Pretty nice. It doesn't look bad. It really doesn't. It's a big base. I would just maybe not be buying long into this area that I would expect selling around 39. Gain it, come back to it, hold it, maybe juke right below it, and then we might be talking. Excuse me. Gold. Gold. Strong. Let me turn off stuff real quick. Here's another one, you guys. This is what this is what I'm talking about. This is where I have. I mean, even though I know these things to be true, this is where I have trouble. Notice where I had an alert to go long on gold, right here, 159. I didn't take it. I saw it. I thought of it. I didn't take it. Such is life. Just do this real quick. Actually, let's go to the monthly here. Gold made new highs against the 2011 highs. Failed a new high against the August 2020 high. Let's see, where's this low? Did not make a new low against that big pivot low. Gold doesn't look half bad. My guess is that we might be headed lower ultimately. My guess is that we probably are not going to make another new high above 194 or above 195, 193.5. But near term, we might be headed higher, a bit higher. I would be not interested below the 157 level. They could come down into it, take out stops, and then turn it back. But things could rotate a little bit. I mean, if you compare gold to something like the Qs or SPY, you know, we've been looking at kind of somewhere in this area as a potential area of interest on SPY and the Qs. And let's go back to those real quick just to recap, right? Like this, we were looking for price to come back in to kind of where it had lost, right? And it's done that. Well, if we go to gold, you know, you come back into the area that it lost right here. So I mean, I would not be shocked to see this thing 168 in the not so distant future. Kind of would like to see it do like what SPY and Qs did, where you had those previous highs that were trouble, come back in 162, and then, you know, so maybe the 162 level somewhere around in here. Actually, let's just create an alert. Maybe we'll look to take this trade next week sometime if it comes. It's kind of where my head at would be. Or that's kind of where my, yeah, that seems right. Silver. So silver a little bit stronger here, right? Same idea. Coming into those lows, it's a little bit closer. So silver might be an interesting idea, closer to like 17. If we catch a little bit of a pullback here, silver gained that gap. But if we catch a pullback next week, that could be interesting. Silver, in comparison to gold, I think gold looks better. Gold looks quite better. But silver could have some legs over the coming weeks, as could gold, for sure. Nice, Robert. Man, Robert, you're nailing it. Bad? What's bad? GFS. What are these names, James? Yeah, Robert, you've been killing it, dude. Good job. I don't know what Global Foundries is. It does not look super great to me. This area kind of is your line in the sand area, right? Or at least one of your lines in the sand area. I guess you could say that this area is too. Man, the naked sex stuff needs to chill out. Yeah, I didn't take the trade on gold. It's, you know, like I said, it's hard. It's hard to do. It's hard to take a trade when it feels really scary to take a trade. It's a lot easier to take a trade when it feels really comfortable and you feel really confident. But generally, it's like the worst time. That's funny. All right, so I think, James, this one is a tricky one. I don't really love it, but I mean, it doesn't look bad. Back tested this, gaining this. I mean, somewhere in there. Lines up with your anchored VWAP from the IPO. Could happen. 56 bucks. It's a 10% move from here. But I don't know anything about this company. I don't know what they do. I don't know. I just don't know anything about it. CVX, super strong today. 8.5%. What a day. CVX. Interesting name, being the third largest semiconductor foundry in the world, based in the U.S. Interesting. What did semiconductors look like? Semiconductors are kind of in the same spot as SPY. Coming into those distribution lows in here. Anchor from the March high. Just slightly gaining that anchored VWAP. We could go all-time highs right here. I would anticipate semiconductors to have a little bit of trouble here. What is this? This is the anchored VWAP from the COVID lows. Gaining those. Or gaining that, rather. Hasn't really nicely tested this. I mean, it sort of did. It front ran it. Would be interesting to see them come back, take out these lows here, and then run it. You know? Come back into it like that. Something like that. I mean, it may not do just that, but you know what I'm saying. Y'all, it is 10 o'clock. For me, 12 o'clock on the East Coast. So this is my time to dip on out of here. It's always such a pleasure hanging out with you guys. I really appreciate the repeat visitors. Truly, truly, truly do. It means a lot that you guys are willing and hopefully enjoy coming and hanging out with me when I'm here. Again, if anybody is tuned in right now that is not currently a TrendSpider user, but you are interested in it, here is a 35% discount. Or I'm sorry, a 25% discount. Sorry, 25. Please feel free to utilize that. 7-day free trials. I am around. If anybody ever has any questions about anything, please hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @Krutzky Trades. It's at the bottom of the screen. Right, hold on. Right in there somewhere. Right around down there. Javier, what's up, man? Cheers. Happy Friday. Hope Miami Beach is looking good for you today, Chewy. INTCER. Is that today? Woo! They got crushed, didn't they? Dang. Yeah, I mean, Chewy. Exactly what we're talking about. Take out the low. Hopefully you got it close to 35.5 bucks. Maybe an opportunity to sell it around 39, maybe. If you get a nice little bounce back into the gap a little bit. I know we'll have to see on that. But hopefully you caught it there off of those lows. Javier, I'm rooting for you. Rooting for the semis. Let's go on the semis. So yeah, I'm going to dip out of here. Again, like I said, if you guys have any questions for me ever, anytime, hit me up on Twitter at Krutzky Trades. My DMs are always open. You can always shoot me a follow. You could ask me a question. You could hit me with a chart request. You can hit me with a TrendSpider question. Whatever you got, I'm here to assist you however I can. If you are a TrendSpider user and you would like some a deep dive into any of the tools on the platform, hit us up in chat. Down here, bottom right-hand corner where it says contact us, click on that. We've got guys in chat every day, Monday through Sunday, answering questions for you all. Anytime you're curious about how to use a tool on the platform, if you're having trouble scripting, if you're having trouble with anything, hit us up. We are here to answer those questions for you. If you need a deep dive, click on your name, top right corner, scroll down to where it says schedule training. You won't see it on my side, but you will on yours. This is free training sessions for all of our users on anything that they need training on. You can sign up for really as many of these as you want. So feel free to help yourself to our calendar. Yeah, and that's really it for me. We will be back again next week, Monday, I believe at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern time for another show. We'll also be doing it on Wednesday, 2:30. Oh, actually, let me get you guys this. If anybody is interested in it, I've got a calendar. Let me hit you with my calendar. It might take me a second to find it. Here it is. If you want to know, if you want to be in the know every time I'm live, there's your calendar link. Just subscribe to our calendar. There you go, dog. And yeah. And then Tuesday, we'll be doing Trade Ideas Show on Twitter, 8 p.m. Eastern. Next Thursday, we'll be doing live charting show here on YouTube. I'm not exactly sure who our guest is next week, but I will get you guys that info at the very least on Monday. So yeah, that's going to be it for me. I hope that you guys all have an awesome weekend. Relax. Don't think about the markets. Just chill out. Enjoy yourselves. Oh, I've just been told Fortune Options is going to be our guest on the live charting show on Thursday. So if you guys want to give him a follow at Fortune Options, I assume is his Twitter. Let me make sure of that. Just checking real quick. Yep, at Fortune Options. He's going to be our guest next Thursday on the live charting show. And yeah, as I was saying, I hope you guys have a great Friday. Have a great rest of your weekend. Holler at me if you need anything. Yeah, I'll see you guys next week. All right, have a good one. Bye.